there's a point at which we have to ask ourselves, are we building a wellness program to offset the harm that our businesses and our teams and our cultures are actually causing? Are we building things to really address issues that we know are sort of brewing beyond or beneath the surface, but not actively addressing them? And are we sort of window dressing the solution by offering this one-off experience?
Welcome to Lime Listen and Learn, the People Leadership Lounge. If you're new here, a lime is a Trinidadian way of hanging out, of gathering. It's unhurried, relational, rooted in conversation, the kind of space where people pull up, settle in, and just talk about what's really going on, seeing where the conversation takes us. I'm your host, Abbiola Ballah, founder of Fern Education Studios, where I support professionals and organizations navigating uncomfortable workplace conversations through one-on-one coaching and the Clearer Conversations Lab. So this is not an interview in the traditional sense, it's a line, right? So you'll hear us thinking out loud, making connections, sitting with tension, laughing when we laugh, going down rabbit holes, just seeing where the conversation takes us. So today, I'm liming with Gary L. Davis, and we are getting into deconstructing the wellness room in the workplace. So this one was fire, y'all. So pull up a chair and come lime with us. Gary, I am really, really glad that you are here with me today. The last time we talked, and I think it was the last time and the first time we had a conversation, it just went in this direction that I didn't even expect. And as soon as that happened, I'm like, I have to line with him on the podcast. I don't care that we just met. We're lining. Because this has to happen so the people can hear it. So Thank you for feeling the same way and agreeing to come do this with me.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. So I feel like we had our first meeting, which I feel like was a lime in and of itself. So we're having our part 2 lime on a topic that I feel like is really relevant right now and one that I think is really needed right now because
absolutely.
Every day I log on my phone, I'm like, Lord have mercy. I don't even know. I'm still getting caught up from last Thursday. So we're in this moment right now where presence is a gift and one that we just have to be mindful of.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I agree. And the funny thing is when we started talking about this and when I did not think that wellness would be the thing that we land on, honestly speaking. And so it surprised me in a good way. I was like, oh, yes, I think this is the space that the road that we go down because, as you said, it is something with everything that's happening out there in, this world that we live in. It's one of those topics that's pretty high in our minds inside of wellness, inside of self-care, and especially within the workplace, right? And we're hearing it more that, lots of workplaces are doing wellness programming and things like that. But of course, I got to come in with my, yes, you're doing the wellness programming, but can we talk about what about everything else that's going on, And in our pre-show chat, one of the things I was mentioning, what happens when all of that programming exists, yes, but the culture itself of the organization is still doing things like avoiding hard conversations, having feedback that is unclear. Conflict is something that it's still not dealt with, right? It's something that's still being tiptoe around it or something like that. So, when we're talking about wellness, and I know you had mentioned the word about deconstructing, right? That wellness room or whatever it looks like, right? When we're talking about that, what are we actually deconstructing and what exactly are we? I want to dig in and kind of unpack that.
So I have a million and one thoughts. I think the first thing is I applaud organizations that are committed to wellness. I do, but I also recognize that if you are building a wellness program, there's a point at which we have to ask ourselves, are we building a wellness program to offset the harm that our businesses and our teams and our cultures are actually causing? In other words, Are we building things to really address issues that we know are sort of brewing beyond or beneath the surface, but not actively addressing them? And are we sort of window dressing the solution by offering this one off experience? And I think that that's really challenging, but unfortunately not unfamiliar territory, right? Like I've
Mhm.
spent a lot of my career in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space, which nowadays is not the safest word to say, but many years ago, it was we're going to invest in DEI. We're going to pledge millions of dollars, form teams, set really ambitious goals for how we want our workforces to look, but then not do anything with that. Because guess what happened? DEI was actually replaced by AI. And so we find
Yeah.
ourselves really living in a world where all of these different things are happening. There's rapid competition. And
Mhm.
things can easily be replaced if they are
Mhm.
not as sexy as they once were. So
Mm.
when we talk about wellness, I think it's something that impacts all of us. We're all human beings at the end of the day, regardless of how you look, who you
Yeah.
love, language your grandmother speaks, any of those different topics. And I think that embracing wellness that fully honors the fact that, like, yes, we are workers. Yes, we are leaders. Yes, we're contributing to something that's a little bit larger than who we are individuals. But we also need to have a sound mind when we do that. We also need to have a world where we're not as burnt out while we do that, because ultimately that's going to impact the bottom line. And that's ultimately going to impact our own individual ability to feel effective as humans and then also as leaders.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think that, you know, one of the things with this idea of wellness, and even when, you know, DI programming kind of blew up, right?
Mhm.
In 2020.
Mhm.
We can say it really it was happening before then, but it kind of
Mhm.
really blew up for the masses in 2020. It became the
Mhm.
thing, right? The
Mhm.
sexy thing to do, the sexy thing to have. And
Mhm.
everybody likes a little sexy thing, right?
Mhm.
And I think one of the things with that, and now that's kind of wellness and this idea of self care, it's been
Yep.
around for forever. I
Yep.
know amazing self care coaches
Yep.
that I have in my orbit, and they've been doing this for a very long time. And some organizations as well have been doing this for a long time as well. But I think now, because of everything that's going on, it's become the thing,
Yep.
right? It's becoming the thing, and it's becoming so not only do people want the sexy thing, but they
Mhm.
also want that instant gratification thing,
Yep.
because that's the society we live in right now,
Mhm.
where we want things right here, right now.
Yep.
Please give it to me right here, right now. I can only focus for a minute or so on a
Mhm.
reel. Don't make it longer, maybe a minute and a half, maybe two if it's really good. But if it's much longer than that, you're
Mhm.
going to lose me,
Yep.
right? But I think, like you said, and the part I agree on, and the part I'm concerned about as well, is the fact that is these ideas of it being the sexy thing, the instant gratification thing, kind of hiding the fact that the rest of the work that needs to be done within the organization is
Yep.
not getting done, right? So I think about, when you have these great, as leaders, when you have these great wellness programming, you have these things, how are you following up with
Mhm.
your staff after these workshops, right? How are
Mhm.
you how are you even deciding what is needed,
Mhm.
And I think you brought up something like that earlier as well. How do you know what you're solving for if you're not
Mhm.
really looking at the root of all the problems,
Mhm.
you know? And I think that those are the things that are hard to look at,
Mhm.
because then you're going to realize that maybe it's not just about wellness, it's
Mhm.
about something even more and even deeper, and that you have to throw money behind. And you're like, oh, we don't have the budget, then what are we going to do? And oh,
Mhm.
well, maybe we just get a wellness program.
Yep. Yep. And I'll tell you, when I think about you used the word self-care earlier,
Yeah.
anytime I've ever needed to use self-care as an adult, it's been because of work. It's been because
Mm,
it a way or a means to take care of myself, to breathe, to be present, to feel grounded. Because there's usually something happening in the workplace that either I have zero control over, or I am trying my best to navigate. And so I
mm,
think sometimes we talk about self care through the lens of navigating just like the day to day, but I'm going to make it
yeah.
and say that a lot of this is driven by work. And what happens when you sort of invest in these like short-term solutions, they really become red herrings. They become the
Mm,
distractions that we use to sort of drive attention away from the core issue, which is we don't have cultures where people feel comfortable sharing opinions. We don't have cultures where people feel comfortable disrupting things that aren't working, which is fascinating to me because we live in a world from a tech angle that's driven by disruption, right? Like
mm,
3 years ago, when ChatGPT hit the market, like that disrupted everything. We take that
yes.
even further. Their smartphone disrupted everything. So we're always moving at this pace of what's the next greatest, latest thing, as you talked about, that's sexy, that really changes or transforms things. But we have to get to this point where we recognize that a lot of the harm that happens, a lot of the reasons why people need to detox from a number of different things, whether that be social media or even some friends and family, is because there are things that happen in the workplace that many of us don't have control over. So
Mm,
a lot of it boils down to what is the culture that is allowed? Meaning, like, what are the things that happen that people can get away with that no one addresses or no one disrupts that continue to exist? And how does that impact people? Right? Like, we
yeah.
all have emotions, we all have traumas, we all have histories. I'm not saying that the workplace needs to be the space where all of those different things are solved, right? Like, mean,
No.
access your employee assistance program or access whatever form of healing that
Yeah.
is most relevant and helpful for you. But I also don't think that the workplace has a right to exacerbate issues that may be going on, especially now. Like, we are
Oh,
all navigating so much. And I think we owe it to ourselves to be as kind to ourselves and to each other as we possibly can.
absolutely. When you were saying that, in my head was just like, well, where's the wellness programs now when you need it?
Yep.
If work is a thing, where's the wellness programs now? Because
Yep.
that's the thing. Are they doing their job if you're still going out and looking for self care? And I put that in
Hmm.
quotes
Hmm.
to highlight what we think self care should look like,
Hmm.
meaning like taking a long bath or
Hmm.
going to walk in nature. But
Hmm.
that's not all that self care is about,
Yep.
right? That's what we think it should look like, but it's about so much more than that.
Hmm.
And if even that is so much more than that, then the programming
Hmm.
within these organizations need to address all of those other things that you're mentioning. So
Hmm.
maybe the wellness program is more of a workshop around how do we have
Hmm.
difficult conversations, or how do we give feedback? How do we receive feedback,
Hmm.
right? How do we handle conflict? Or maybe even leaders asking their team, hey, how do you want to? You don't have to have a whole workshop around it. How about
Yep.
in a meeting, we start off like, how do you want to receive feedback? What,
Yep.
how can I support you? Oh,
Mhm.
what are your goals? And like truly listening and sharing. And also on the leader side, I will even flip it to them too, sharing that with your team as
Mhm.
well, saying, hey, this is how I receive feedback. And this is how I usually give feedback.
Mhm.
Let's have a conversation about it and
Mhm.
see how we can come. That I think helps with that. You don't have to go out
Mhm.
and like look for all these things to make you feel better after you
Mhm.
come home from work
Yep.
every day, you know? Because you're building that culture of not a culture of, we're not looking for a utopia
Yep.
because we're all human beings. We're all
Mhm.
imperfect.
Mhm.
Shit's gonna happen,
Mhm.
right? But we're building a culture of where we're not afraid to tackle the hard things, but
Mhm.
we are ready to move through them together, right?
Yep.
And I think that is also a part of wellness,
Yep.
building that foundation. And
Mhm.
once that's there, then you can put in other, other types of programming to help us, with, like people like myself and you mentioned it as well, who are neurospicy, and for
Mhm.
others to understand that, right?
Mhm.
And what that looks like. And,
Mhm.
maybe for us to, help us internalize like how we work and what can work best for us in this way and try to figure that out because that takes time too for
Yeah.
us to figure that out for ourselves, just for ourselves, And then we have to like share with others. Then we
Mhm.
have to wait for others to kind of come to terms with, okay, some things may need to shift because this person looks at
Mhm.
things this way, right?
Mhm.
And it's a whole thing. So it's not a thing that will definitely be, I don't know, it's not a thing that will give you instant gratification and that can be solved in one workshop, or two.
Or 5, right? Like, unless you're able and interested, really actually invested in addressing, again, the root. And so even as you were talking, one of the things I heard a lot about, I felt like you were speaking about the essence of collaboration. And to me, I see a direct link between that and wellness. And so what does that mean? When I talk about collaboration, that means that there is role clarity. So there is clarity around what am I expected to produce? What am I expected to deliver? How does that tie into the larger goal about what it is that we're trying to offer, whether it be a product or a service? And I need to know exactly what that is because once I know that, I can own it. I can drive that. I can solicit additional resources. But as you talk about with feedback, that is so crucial to collaboration because what that says is I know we are all human. We are all going to have very different styles, very different behavior motivations and drivers for how we like to get work done. The friction lies in, well, whose way is right? Right. And oftentimes, when you are the leader or you have a title, you set this unconscious expectation that folks need to operate in the exact same way that you do. I'm here to tell you right now that is a recipe for failure. I know exactly what my strengths are and I know exactly what my weaknesses are. And it's really important that I build teams around me or work on teams where we are able to actually offset each other's strengths and weaknesses to be able to get to a space of true balance and collaboration. And what that looks like is, I think, again, being grounded in yourself, knowing who you are, showing up authentically, feeling comfortable saying, like, listen, I don't know the answer to that. I will help you find that answer. We can discover that answer together. But I think oftentimes we put a lot of posturing into the workplace because we're trying to get to the next
Mhm.
level. And so that pressure self-imposed to advance completely takes us out of the present and completely takes us out of our ability to have thoughtful, meaningful connections with our colleagues. And I think the danger that comes with that is that we find ourselves in a world where we don't know what we're doing at the end of the day, but we know we want to advance. We don't know how to talk to one another. Feedback is something that I think a lot of people have a lot of anxiety around. I myself fell into that category at one point because I'm always very clear about what the power dynamic or differential looks like. But I've learned to really focus on building that authentic relationship with the person first, allowing them to get to know who I am, see what it is that I care about and what I value. So I may say those things explicitly, or you may just kind of like pick up on it. But I always want people to remind themselves that at work, you are building relationships. Relationships require work. It is not a one and done type of thing. You work with people on teams for months and years, and you collaborate with new people. But we're always trying to get our point across, but we're never really interested in hearing what the other party has to say. And I think it's so we can live in a world where we see our reality as equal to the reality of other people
Yeah.
regardless of how they look, regardless of how they identify, is the second that we can see that their reality has as much merit and as much weight as our own,
Mhm.
then I think we're going to get to a point where wellness is something that becomes the standard and not the exception.
I mean, yes, 1,000%.
Hmm.
It's like you took everything that in my head and you said it because I absolutely agree with you. And I say that all the time as well.
Hmm.
If people have been listening to me for a while, they know, right? They know. I don't say it as well as you do, Gary. You do say it really well. I
Thank
applaud, applaud. Yes. My little
As long as it's
neurospicy self.
heard, it doesn't
My,
matter how she says it or how it's said, but
I
as long as
know.
it's trust.
My little neurospicy self goes around in circles, but the point is clear by the end. No, but it's absolutely true. And I think people goes back to things taking the time it needs to take.
Hmm.
And people, and I'll throw myself in there as
Hmm.
well because I run into that myself and in different arenas as an
Hmm.
entrepreneur. Believe me, I run into that a lot in that I want to figure it out
Mhm.
right now. I
Mhm.
want everything to be perfect or,
Mhm.
rolling and going right. But there has to be steps, for lack of a better word. There has
Mhm.
to be different shifts that need to happen. And a
Mhm.
lot of times there are micro shifts that are
Mhm.
going to happen, right?
Mhm.
There has to be, time to pause, time
Mhm.
to reflect,
Mhm.
time to, come to terms with, hey, why did I get defensive when somebody
Mhm.
said that?
Mhm.
Or am I really listening to what my colleague just said? Or am I just bringing my own expectations into it and
Mhm.
expecting it to happen the way I want it to happen, like you said, right?
Mhm.
But taking that time, a lot of the times we feel like we don't have that time to
Yep.
be able to do that. And if we're about wellness, shouldn't these wellness programs give us the space to have that time?
Mhm.
Allow us to, shouldn't those rooms or whatever the space room look like? It could be physical, it could be virtual, it could just be within ourselves.
Yep.
Shouldn't that allow us to take the time that is needed? And like you said, understanding that, hey, if I need a minute, if I need a beat, other people might probably need a beat too. So I can't really, fault them
Mhm.
for missing a deadline after this big thing happened, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Or after they got some really hard feedback. I
Mhm.
can't really fault them for maybe dropping a ball
Mhm.
right after they got the feedback. Just because you give someone feedback and tell them, "Hey, this is what you're not doing well," doesn't
Yes.
mean they're going to change overnight.
Right.
You have to give them the time. And a lot
Mhm.
of the times the expectation is, well, I told you
Mhm.
yesterday. Why
Mhm.
are you still doing the same thing?
Mhm. Mhm.
So all of those things comes back to, I feel like time is a big thing that we
Mhm.
feel like we don't have, but we actually do, and we
Yep.
need to
Yep.
give it the time. I always tell, one of the things a lot of my clients come to me with is that they feel like they can't come back to things, right?
Mhm.
They're like, I have to address this thing in this moment, or else people are going to be like, well, why are you bringing up something that happened 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago,
Mhm.
And I think we're just socialized to think that way. And
Mhm.
because we're feeling like, oh, well, they're nagging, or they're harping on it, or we have that feeling inside of us. But the thing about it is, we need the time to process and to kind of figure out the right way to go. And then we can come back to it. Also, some people may not be ready to hear, like you talked about being able to listen, right? Some people may not be ready to hear it in
Mhm.
that moment. And if
Yes.
they're not, then what are you going to do? Push, push, push. It's like,
Yes.
it's not going to work,
Yep.
you know? It's just actually going to make things worse. And then you're going to go need to, take that PTO and take a vacation in the
Mhm.
Maldives or something that
Yep.
you shouldn't be doing
Mhm.
because you have a wedding to go to. No, I'm just talking about your nonsense.
Listen,
But
if
you know what I mean?
to the Maldives, to recharge, I don't even know what they have to say about it. I'm going. I don't care if it's a wedding or not. It could be a baby shower for a stranger. I'm gonna be. But I think what's interesting is I want to back up a little bit
Yeah.
because the first thought I had as you were talking, oftentimes I think we think of wellness and self-care as being like really individual things.
Mm.
So like your definition of wellness and self-care may look very different than mine, and that's completely okay.
Mhm.
But if we're working together, we have to think about wellness as being something that can be communal. So it's not enough just to have it as a group that you hire folks to come in to do massages or a virtual yoga session or like a healthy eating thing, right?
Yeah.
I think all of that is great, but those become events.
Yes.
We're actually looking for structural changes to how a team or a
Mhm.
company operates. And I think we have to also remind ourselves that when we're having those conversations, when you talk about feedback, timing is essential, aiming is essential, because you also have to be really clear about, well, what's the outcome that I want from this? If I'm meeting with this person from 2 to 2:30, how do I want to feel at 2:31, right? Like, how do I want, what is the outcome that I'm getting toward? And I think we have to just remind ourselves that we're dealing with humans. Humans have emotions, humans have histories, humans have PTSD that oftentimes shows up from places that they worked at, myself
Yep.
included. And so when you think about different experiences that you've had, where, oh, wait, this is making me think about this memory from 5 years ago when I was on this team, or this is something that reminds me from an internship I had, 15, 20 years ago. Those memories stay within us. I think we got to get to this place where we recognize that we're dealing with humans. Humans are completely the most complex individuals ever. My husband and I joke and tease that we want to come back as butterflies or trees in our next life on Jupiter, because Earth has been a journey. My point
Really
is,
has been.
yeah, I'm like, when it comes to work, it is a lot more complicated than what it needs to be. It's never, in my experience, been about the actual work itself. It's been really trying to manage my own emotions, because I'm not a believer of this idea that I have to be completely unemotional at the workplace. Like, I can be logical and left brained and all of that, but like, to ignore the fact that I'm a emotional creature by nature is, I think, robbing myself and the world of
Yeah.
brilliance. And I just don't think that's fair or kind to anybody. But again, we got to get to this place where we understand that we're dealing with humans. Humans are messy. We make a lot of mistakes. No one should be expecting perfection, but oftentimes that is what comes up. And we really get to the space of collaboration, where honoring what we know, what we don't, and we build teams with people who are able to fill in those gaps. And we consistently work through team building. We consistently show up as people who care about the well-being of those that are around us. Then I think we really have an opportunity to make some magic. But until we can get to that point and move away from the, like you were saying, like, okay, we got to do this quickly. Like, everything is just like so frantic. And I'm a person who appreciates efficiency. Other people might say that it's impatience, but my therapist has been helping me reframe an appreciation for efficiency. And like, that's not right. That's not wrong. Other people,
Yeah.
again, very different styles. It's just about, how do we make sure that our unique styles can flow and work together?
Yes.
Because we're here to do a job at the end of
Yeah. And that's where we have to talk it through. We have
the
to
day.
have conversations in order
Mhm,
to even know that. Right.
mhm,
And I think if these conversations don't happen,
mhm.
then your efficiency may look like impatience.
Yep.
And that person may be, well, I don't know if I want to work with Gary. He's so impatient.
Yep.
Whereas you're just like, no, we're being efficient. And this is what efficiency looks like to me.
Yep.
Right. And, but even just having that 2-minute conversation can change how someone
Mhm.
reacts, or someone, works with you, someone collaborates with you, and the expectations that you have of them and they have of you,
Yep.
right? And you both have of yourselves,
Yep.
you know? And I
And I,
think,
I'm sorry.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I think it's an ongoing conversation, as we've been talking about,
Absolutely.
right? Where there have been moments where I've reported to folks who value efficiency as well, but their speedometer is a little bit faster than mine. So I've had to ask the question, can you tell me what's driving or what's motivating the
Yeah.
urgency, right? Because there may be something that I don't know, or that I'm not seeing,
Yeah.
or that's not being shared. But if
Yeah.
I understand that, not saying that I'm just not gonna move quickly just to be obstinate, but you are pressing on this for a reason, help me understand what that reason
Yeah.
is. And I think the ability to have that type of dialogue, number one, says like, hey, it's safe. We can talk about this. I'm
Exactly.
open to listening. You just got to meet me halfway, and let's make sure that we're having like a thoughtful conversation.
No, absolutely. And the fact that you can even ask that question, not
Mhm,
everyone can, or not everyone feels like they can. And I
mhm.
think that brings us right back around to the culture, right?
Yep.
The foundational culture that is there, that
Mhm,
allows for these kind of questions to be asked, right?
mhm,
That allows for these type of conversations to be had
mhm.
outside of the events of, I mean, no one's going to say no. Well, I know I wouldn't, to a bunch of massages, a
Right.
weekly massage, right? We can have the weekly massage, but we
Yep.
also need to have a space knowing that we can have these types of conversations as
Mhm,
well, because that's also, good for my well-being,
mhm.
knowing that I don't have to be, and I'm just using I statements, I don't have to be, scared to ask, what's behind the urgency, or is this really, or even to ask, like, is this something that is truly urgent, and what does urgent mean to you? You
Yes.
know, right?
Mhm.
Because we can get into a whole thing. I did another episode with another guest. We talked all about urgency, right? And what
Mhm.
is truly urgent.
Uh-huh.
And the place that, it's so funny, this just popped up in my brain, because the place that we came to at the end of all of that was that our own self-care should be urgent.
Mm.
You lean back on that one. Listen, and look at what we're talking about.
Mhm. We are so able and interested to put KPIs, OKRs,
Mhm.
revenue on top of
Yeah.
our needs as humans. And I think it shows up in even subtler ways, right? So if I am working from home and I have back to back calls, me darting to my kitchen to scarf down a meal between calls completely goes against the way that humans operate, right? Like, in order for me just to be as effective as I can be in any role that I'm holding, I got to have a balance. That might mean I need to take some green tea. That might mean that I need to do a meditation. That might mean I need to go take a walk outside. But sometimes I think we construct our days, sometimes by choice, oftentimes not, where we're in meetings, we're behind screens all day, and we're forgetting, like, wait, I need to use the restroom. Wait, I need sunlight. Wait, I need a bottle of water. I need to hydrate because, again, I am a human being. I have to take care of myself in order to take care of my to-do list. And I think it's really easy when you talk about folks who have, myself included,
Mhm.
an unhealthy relationship with ambition,
Mhm.
because my ambition tells me that I need to be here.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is like, wait, I'm right here right now, and that's okay too.
Mhm.
And sometimes we use work, I think, as a vehicle to really satiate our ambition, because if there is a trajectory for us, that's great because we could just sort of follow that pathway.
Yeah.
There's not, we can create our own against our own clock. And again, I think that also overrides our ability to form deep, real connections with people that also impact our wellness, because we see people that interfere with this sort of self generated plan as threats or as enemies. And we may consciously or unconsciously, probably mostly consciously, do things to either address this affront that we think that they've caused in our lives by sort of slowing us down or pushing us back, or giving us feedback that we didn't like, and associating that with the values judgment. When I give feedback, I'm talking about the work.
Mm.
You are a whole person. You have your own things
Yeah.
going on. I'm going to give you feedback that's clear because I see that there's an opportunity here to do it differently. And I'm able to connect it back to the bottom line. What is it that our team, what is it your role is responsible for?
Yeah.
What is it that our team is responsible for? And how does this contribute to the lights being kept on and us being
Right.
able to still collect a paycheck?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. As you were saying that, I'm like, my boss right now
Mm-hmm.
needs to take a page from your book, because sometimes she forgets to give me a lunch break.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm eating lunch at like 5 p.m. And I'm like, wait,
Mm-hmm.
why did she do that? For
Mm-hmm.
those who don't know, I am my boss. My boss is me. But no, it's true though. Sometimes we don't remember for
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. And I think the thing that comes up for me, like you said, you're giving feedback like on the work and things like that. But even pushing a little bit further, how hard is it, or are we able to, as the person who is leading the team, right? Let's say, to say, send a quick Slack message. Don't forget to drink water.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget to, like something
Mm-hmm.
simple as that. If you have remote teams that's going, I have a friend, she does that to me, like randomly. I would get a WhatsApp message from her, and I got one yesterday, says, don't forget to hydrate. And I was like, thank you. Right. But think
Mm-hmm.
about it. Look at that, what that simple shift can do to
Mm-hmm.
someone. Like, that's such a simple thing that we're like, it's not like you're, demanding, but you're
Mm-hmm.
just like, it's a reminder for yourself
Yep.
and for your team to take care of themselves in that way, that the
Yep.
work is, yes, what we're doing is important. We're working together, you
Mhm.
know, getting shit done and taking names. Is that the saying? Whatever. Um, I
I'm
think I
with
just
you.
But you know what I mean? Right? But we're also acknowledging the human beings
Yeah.
behind it all
Yeah.
through some simple shifts that we're making as well, Okay, we can keep going. And I know we can keep going even more, but I don't know if people want to listen to me gab on for 2 hours. So I want to make sure that we get to say it with your whole chest, right? This is the part of the segment where the episode where we drop the filter, which we've been doing, and say the thing that you really believe is something that might be uncomfortable, something that might not be popular. It might be something tender, or it might be something, the quiet thing that needs to be said out loud kind of thing, but it's always honest. So, Gary, the floor is yours. The mic is yours. Say it with your whole chest.
I think that we are in a really unique moment right now where AI has become the thing that people care most about. It's the thing that has cost folks their livelihoods. It's the thing that I use, let me be clear, but I am cautious about it because I recognize how it's impacting people. If we're sticking with this idea of businesses feeling this attraction to this sexy, shiny object, humanity has to become a sexy, shiny object for businesses to care about again. It just has to. It just has to, because that is what we are missing. And maybe it's something we've never actually had. Like, I am from Detroit, and I think about the auto industry, the early days of that. When we think about like the 5-day work week, 8-hour work day, that wasn't something that was easy to come by, right? Like, that wasn't an easy concession. So we've always thought about work as this thing that funds our lifestyles, allows us to take care of ourselves and our families. But what has the workplace done for us other than that? It's driven us to seasons of burnout. It's driven us to seasons of anxiety. It's driven us to moments where we have questioned our own sense of identity. And it's also, I think, unearthed for me personally a detachment from perfectionism, from performance, disconnecting productivity from my sense of self-worth, because that has been a game that I've been used to for a really, really long time. These workplaces have an obligation to respect their employees. They have an obligation to keep them informed about what is working, what's not working, what direction is the business heading in, how is AI going to disrupt our business in either direction. And I think when you can exercise that level of care and that level of community with people at a time when people, I feel like, are experiencing high levels of loneliness, then I think that we can really shift some things around and make some good trouble. I don't see that happening in the short term for a lot of companies. I'm going to just keep it a buck. But I think that any organization that's starting up right now, or is at an inflection point and they're trying to figure out what's next for us, you have to remember that your people are important. You also have to remember that treating them with dignity and respect is the most important thing. And that people want the same things that we want, right? Like, everyone wants a level of recognition for good work. Everyone wants to feel safe. Everyone wants to feel respected. Everyone wants to feel heard. Doesn't always mean that we're going to act on everything that's shared, because if you're in a company of 10,000 people, how on earth can you factor in 10,000 unique opinions and perspectives? But even if we don't move forward with whatever that idea is, we at the very least can reassure the person that, like, yes, listen, great idea. Doesn't really match where we are right now. Keep those ideas coming. There will be a day and a moment where we'll be able to hear you out and execute on the thing that you're recommending. But businesses, we got to do better.
Absolutely. Humanity has to be the sexy, shiny object that we focus on. Listen, when that hit me here, like, it hit me in my chest when you said that, I was like, whoa. It's so true, though, because people, it's about people, it's about us. There's no way AI at this moment in our lives in 2026, where we are right now, have the range of emotions, the range of anything that we have right now. It can be trained to try to mimic it, but it will still always fall short, because a person has to come in and train them.
Mm-hmm.
So don't think people are not obsolete. We have to be at the forefront. I absolutely agree. We have to be at the forefront of what organizations are taking care of. Let people be the sexy, shiny object. There's nothing else you remember. So much, Gary. Oh my gosh. That was, yes. Thank you for saying that.
Of course. I mean, people are the sexy object when we talk about them as customers and consumers, right? So if you treat your employees with the same level of respect that you treat your customers, current and prospective, then you are never going to go a day where people don't feel safe in your environment.
Yep. And I would even add on to that, even if they don't, they'll be able to talk to you about it and tell you.
You just gotta
You know,
listen. You gotta
you
be
just gotta listen. You
listen to what they have to say, and then
to
if you
listen.
can act on it, do so. But
Yes,
the worst thing I
exactly.
think you can do is commit to acting on something that you're not equipped to take on, that can cause more harm than good.
Absolutely. And ignoring that there's a problem to begin with.
Exactly. Most important.
Mostly. All right, Gary, my goodness, this was so good. So
Thank
many
you.
gems were dropped. People, so many gems were dropped.
Y'all just gotta pick them up.
You just gotta pick them up. And if you're like listening to us, I have to just share that we're both rocking the pink. Gary with his hair, me with my clothes, but the pink is rocking. Okay, right now, today.
Yeah.
If you're not like watching us on YouTube, you can't see it. So I'm telling you, because that needs to be acknowledged.
Yeah.
Also with that, but also acknowledging again all the gems that were dropped. This was amazing. I appreciate all your honesty and just you as a person. Thank you for being here. And before we wrap, please tell the people where they can find you, to connect with you and hear more from you.
Yeah. So first and foremost, thank you for having me. I think that this is a sacred space. And I think that we were able to make magic just by sharing our own perspectives of the world that we all should have the opportunity to experience. If you want to hear more about the interesting things I have to say or just different thoughts that I have about the world, you can always find me on LinkedIn. I go by Gary L. as in Lamont, my middle name, Davis. I am at linkedin.com/n, and I believe it's GL Davis 10. So happy to stay connected. Let's keep this conversation going. Wellness is a priority for all of us, especially now. And the kinder that we can be to ourselves and each other is just going to create the world.
Thank you, Gary. And all of that will be in the show notes for you to click on to go connect with Gary. Thank you so much. To everyone listening, thank you for aligning with us today. Genuinely. Whether you've been here from the beginning or this is your first time, I'm so grateful that you chose to spend this time with us. And if this conversation resonated with you, please share it with a colleague, a friend, someone you think needs to hear this. And also, don't forget to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening right now, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever, so you don't miss the next one. You can also join our mailing list at ferneducationstudios.com for resources and updates that don't make it onto this feed. This kind of conversation is also at the heart of the work that I do at Fern Education Studios, working with managers, directors, and mid-career professionals on the uncomfortable workplace conversations that matter the most. If that's something you want to explore, you can learn more at ferneducationstudios.com or connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search for Abbiola Ballah, and all of these links will be in the show notes. So until next time, my friends, keep liming, keep listening, keep learning.